How's it going? This is a continuance, a part two, if you would say, to the discussion. Um, we were carrying on about the AI. I spun off a little bit onto my energy sources with the quartz crystals and the solar panels to explain to you why this works. Is to explain why the crystal and how it infinitely sends the data or the photon or the energy or the frequency back and forth like the mirror to the mirror. And what happens is we'll talk about the scale through duality, the Planck constant, or what they call the smallest scale. It is through duality, that number multiplied again on itself. That would be the next number. The Planck scale going from the gluon state, the small particle, up to the quark state. From the quark state up to the neutron or the proton or so on state, to the atom state, up to the molecule state, and so forth, so forth. We are, well, human understanding at this point is particle. Particles are just glimpses of existence. Like I said, we're using mirror observation. The whole frequency itself, like the light cone, has parameters. It sets out real tight, but as it travels, the band can get bigger. Everything is a graph of that. Being the control frequency, a certain number, there's a certain positive number and a certain negative number to where energy excels. Take the concept of singularity, of our black hole. What is a black hole? Well, if we stand in this room, each of us hold a corner, put a bowling ball in the center of the sheet or the cover. It starts to concave in. They say nothing inside the black hole and everything is compressed to an infinite point. Infinite is a number we can track. Take the speed of light, which I believe is 136,000 miles a second. I have it wrote down so when I need it in my equations. But if you take that number, we know that at the Big Bang, judging by the speed of light, the universe was exactly 136 miles in circumference, right? So if I knew the age of the universe, which if I had the right opticals to graph the correct data that I would need using color spectrum because of the change of energy from out there and at the edge of the universe coming back towards us, each energy wave to a certain distance as it starts to lose its energy becomes different colors. You can measure the lengths of these spectrum, these colors, and get a data point. And you can take each one of those and add them to each other with a formula I've come up with and get the age of the universe judged on reference data coming back from the edge. Not light, radiation in a sense. I can take that number, multiply it by the speed of light, and have the exact size of the universe. As long as my data points are coming from an axis point, and I can converge them and and compile the data and make sure it all meets. But by numbers and math, this adds up. That proves infinity is something. It's not a number of 99999. To a computer, you get that data because it can't construct a relevant constant. To put decimal points to a number is to mess up already. If we say 1, and then we say 1.1, 1.0, and so forth, where are we setting a value to take a whole number and break it down into fractional numbers when the whole number is the true representation of data? Okay, what does the element age of the universe have to do? Well, it allows us to keep a track of something too, just like the universe is keeping track itself. This number is constantly expanding. The universe is constantly expanding. Therefore, we are constantly expanding. All mass is. Okay, think about virtual particles because they are the key. Let's take a piece of paper and write all kind of negative or zeros. Negatives or zeros on the paper till it fills it up. Think of when we apply energy or matter or mass, which is the same thing, to the part of the paper, it gets a value. The negative or the zero becomes a number. Zero is not a true number. So you just say, in math really, you need to say 1, start at 1, 1 plus 1, 2, and so forth, to create the duality factor. 0 is the deficit value to say nothing. Absolute 0. The gravitons take a value based on the virtual particles, which are, think of it like this. Quantum entanglement is the most important thing in science right now, because it's the quantum friction, okay? These gluons, we'll go down to the smallest scale. Now, if you want to do an experiment, do this. Get you a sandbox program that allows you to do physics things. Take triangles or pyramids, put them in there, and use the gravity factor that draws them in so they make a ball, like a concept of mass. It spins and it spins. Matter in that state wants to get a geometrical angle to become a square, a solid state. Everything in physics is trying to take on a solid state. Think about water. Let's go to gas. Let's just put water as gas, a vapor. It's trying to cool. What is cooling? A decrease in energy to an absolute 0, right? The flame. Let's think of this flame. Okay. It's producing energy through the fuel taking ignition, or the molecule taking ignition, because it's a combustible fluid, butane. Okay. That is creating energy. If it doesn't, then it tries to take a solid state. The importance of this is to understand the universe. Think of a bunch of little pyramids rolling around each other. Now we're going down to a Planck scale, smaller than the Planck scale. Now why is this happening? Energy is everywhere already and can be pulled out of the air. Matter of fact, if you give me the right materials, I will make you mechanisms that are not batteries, and they're not alternators, they're not generators, which is just a reverse of each other. They are the energy themselves, because these little small triangles are like crystals, like the mirror to mirror. They've got sparked by the first bit of photon light, the energy they took in, the first spectrum of energy they took in. They're reflecting that. They're represented, the gluons, by colors. They're these little bitty things in science that have a color to them. That's really the representation. But what they do is their organization. They're trying to become solid state, but as they move, they're creating a quantum friction. The quantum friction is what's important. It's energy that's not being dissipated. When we rub our hands together and create friction like that, the energy is being dissipated across a surface, our hands. Same as anything, energy will take on the least resistive property, just like electricity. Okay? So what happens in a black hole is you get this solid state eventually by compression. The virtual particles are representing the data structures. Virtual particles are not really a particle. Virtual particles are a spark. Let's call it a spark. What happens when the tips, in a sense, now this is just conceptual, when the tips of these small triangles or pyramids rolling around each other touch at points, they create a certain friction that allows spark. That right there is a constant connection, a spooky action. The reason this can happen is because that particle and this particle, if we was to take two blocks and draw a picture on one block and the picture started to instantly appear on the other block, where is the physical connection? There is no physical connection there. The blocks are merely overlapped and already on top of each other. A light cone, okay? Think of it like this. If we look out in space and we see a sun, chances are that light from that sun, it's from a long, long time ago. Think about this. The Big Bang, the light cone, what I'm talking about, the expansion. So that means all the energy that originally was created has moved out across expanse. But as it has, the same with my RF, like sonar. Think about sonar. The light cone is grafting data to these, what you call virtual particles, or what I call a virtual string. It is sending it across as it goes. So the data is already being stored within the mirrors, bouncing back and forth forever and ever. Therefore, the data or the conscience, the reason the particles take a state depending on their observation and will mimic the states depending on the observation is because observation is seeing or human observation with optical eyes is a vibration of light. It's on and off. You're seeing the off. your data is being grafted based on that vibration. It's kind of like flicking the light. See what I'm saying? But there's a constant there because the light has passed that vector, has passed that graft, and it recorded that data. So therefore, to travel through time and space is to travel through time. Accepted. Okay? But everything has already not just happened or will happen, but happened in multiple times. We would think the randomness of this, but we got to think of infinite. Remember, a number that is constantly increasing, that we could get a true data point if only we understand the duality to the point and use AI to graph that and keep it as a data structure, like keeping the world clock or the debt clock. Infinite just means a number that is still being calculated. True definition of infinite. An unobserved data point or number that is constantly increasing until it collapses, stalls, or is unsustainable. You say infinite because you're looking at a relative time scale. The number will eventually stop. For singularity, let's say a black hole, think about it. All this, it's the same as a light cone, except it's going reverse. It's going down to a small point. Let's think about the mirrors. Now, as the mirrors get smaller and smaller and smaller with the reflections eventually inside, it gets to a point to where the photon can only fit through one more relay. That will go forever and ever. Think about that. Think about that. A little photon. That's right. It's energy. And this happens in the world because in existence, because like I said, all these little triangles flipping around each other are reflective. The gluons. That's why they're light. Think about separation and spectrum using a prism. Light amplification. Lasers. Okay, now, if the light is reflected constantly, where is it getting the energy or creating the energy to make this transverse constantly? Think about it. Each time it has to go through, it's having to keep a accurate amount of energy, a stable amount of energy, balanced amount of energy to do this. That's a frequency. The number 369 is important because it's the positive and the negative values of the most possible highest velocity and the most solidest state of matter, which we call absolute zero, and max velocity. Absolute zero is accepted. Fluctuations in the universe, which I can calculate in math. For instance, if you think of ripples, boom, boom, like a pulse, but every time it comes in, it attempts solid state instantly. We'll have a pause, and if the universe was to pause for brief minutes, and we're not thinking in a relative time scale, we wouldn't have no ideal of this because to us it would be an instant transfer. Just like sleeping, you don't really know how much you've slept. You lose time. Think about the word time. It's a man-made concept. It's a relative. If you want to enhance your intelligence and enhance your understanding, I say ignorance is the best word to use for people. It doesn't mean you're stupid. It means you have ignored, lack of perception to perceive, to look and receive information, and then be able to contemplate it. No difference between me and you or anybody else. The difference is the appliance of the conscience. So we gotta expect something here. Let's look at this. All right, let's do an experiment. Triangle, square, and a circle. Numerical values for these. The square is 4. The triangle is 3. And the circle is 1. Okay. What does that add up to? Lay them on top of each other. The circle being the outer one. 8. Turn the 8 sideways, you get infinity. One little fix on that. Look at the 8. What is it? Constants. Infinite. It's constant, is what it means. But I propose the fact that they missed something. That don't just stop at 2 loops. The 8 keeps making loops, but you can only see one because of your perception. See what I'm saying? Not trying to use esoterical value to things, but it's kind of like if I only see this existence, I'm not seeing the rest of that 8 being created. I believe that everything is controlled, and I can prove this with math, so it's not an argument. It is controlled by the 3 states of consciousness. Okay? Mortal and divine and omniscient. I believe that's the steps we take as a being through our journey of this. We are moving our conscience, what we call mind, which is separate from body, and mind, body, and spirit, as we'll say. Spirit, in an esoterical sense, is a specter or a light or a orb or something of energy that fuels the sentinel static body. Okay, but mind is not just me. When I say my mind, I'm really being wrong in what I'm saying, because mind is something everybody can access. Think about it. You say it all the time. Let's expand your mind. Expand your mind. Proof and point. Behind me, there's stuff on the wall. Do I have to physically look at it to see it? No. What you do when you daydream, you're sitting, you're looking, but you're not seeing with your optical nerve. You're seeing with this third eye. That's another perception. Meaning, because I have visually observed that light. Wait, now I can construct it here, but can it exist? What is existence? Like, you think about the tree falling in the woods, nobody's there to hear it. Yes, it is. There's another form of being or observation, laws. Observation is a law. Observation is law. It gives proof to existence. We are merely, check. We make the check marks of life. We see something, we create, we observe it. And that reference with optical vision adds to what you call the Akashic records, I guess, or what I call the mirror data center. It's like the data center of everything. It's not something that exists physically. It's the quantum connection, the spooky action within physics that control this transverse of data by energy. Matter, like I said, all the energy at one point, all matter, energy is matter, was at one point. It's already recorded. It's kind of like this. A balloon. Now, before I blow up the balloon, it's still the balloon. As it expands, or hell, just use something tightly compacted, and as we start breaking it apart or expanding it, what happens? It's the same thing. Whether it's expanded fully or it's closed, it's already wrote. The data and everything that you need is already in the compressed form, and it's already in the expanded form. Think of existence as slates. A certain number in the calculation of the omniscient observation, which is revolved around maybe three particles, or what you call particles. See, particle perception is wrong. Everything's a wavelength, man. Everything is inside of one frequency, and that's the base existence. Okay, that's the light, the photons, the original energy expands. Okay, but think about this and wrap your mind around this. The energy was never dissipated between our universe. What happened was we gained energy from another universe where a supermassive black hole, like at the center of the universe, takes in a critical mass. Eventually it reaches down to the point where the mirror can't get no smile. Only a single planet can fit through and through. So when that happens, they basically, it's like when mirrors, if you had them together and they close, now they can't reflect anymore because they can't pick up photons. But the energy there has to squeeze out where it can. Where it can. That is a Big Bang. That is the birth of another universe. That's the eights keeping going with circles. The snake eating itself, as it eats itself, gets bigger, but you gotta think of multiple snakes attached. See, that's the referencing. So everything's like a slate, a perfect number. Think of yourself. Think of yourself as not just a baby on up to when you're dead or you're an old man, but Think of you as everybody and everything, and apply it to the slates of existence. Meaning, let's take this experiment. Take everybody in the world, and we put them in the same slate each time. Not to show that you're not important as a single being. See, the multiple slates with multiple perceptions create the data structure for existence itself from everything. So the photons are constantly retaliating against the energies are constantly retaliating against the negative energies or the dark. Everything has a balance. It's polarity. I come up with an ideal of the unified quantum polarity, which is the forces of energy on that scale. I said the number negative 369 to a positive 369. That format and that scale between there is the frequency. As high as it can go and as low as it can go. So at these 2 points, it stops and can't be the frequencies inside, which we know now within 5G frequency, they can be so tight and we can revert them like transistors. We can have literally a couple frequencies going across the same band. Okay, so everything in existence, to understanding in the concept data from the omni point stand would be looking like a spectrograph or a bunch of frequencies on top of each other. You're a small vibration with inside the frequency graph itself. You fluctuate just like everything. We all do. All the applied energies of what would be the word for it? Ancestry. Okay, let's think about ancestry. Your ancestor self, your ancestral evolution. You know what you are now, what you will be, and everything you can be as a being, but all in one. The biggest fall and the biggest problem with the human is their understanding as separate beings. Separation. The word separation is not correct. Nothing is separate. Everything is connected and sharing data. So therefore, if that's the case, we could take two files. They can be named, let's name one like Alex and John. Now, different names for the files, right? But symlinked. They correlate the same data. Doesn't mean they're always processing the same data. Maybe one isn't even being processed or used and the other one is. Maybe they're being used but they're having separate idealism. But the same data is still there to be read in both files. The universe is like that and we're like that, except our data points are a lot larger. We can have a lot more understanding. See, the Akashic records is what I'm explaining. Hopefully you now have an understanding of where we are at, to the point to why I can do things in physics that aren't accepted. I took the theory of relativity, I took quantum and unified it by saying that the quantum scale is okay, think of it like this. In the relative scale of everything, where do you begin to grasp from relative to quantum? Outside of the construct of the base structure dualities. Meaning once we go from 1 and 2, outside of that, from the Planck scale, it becomes relative. Meaning it can be measured only by the observer, or observed, how it's perceived. Inside the Planck's, below the duality, or the Planck scale, the actions are not trying to become numbers or data points. They're trying to structure and keep the binding of energy. They're trying to apply that. That's why you cannot say, that's why you get different reactions and forces at quantum scale, because they're not applying the same laws to the physical world outside of that duality. They're not perceivable. See, to observe a particle is to change its state. Like I said, 3 types of observation. So if you're not in the room, or that you're not in the woods when the tree falls, and you didn't hear does it exist question is yes, it does always exist. If we don't observe it, it's being observed by energy itself. Omnits. It's the virtual particle. So think about the virtual particle more as a recorder or a structure. It's more like it's like the camera, like the camera on the officer when they wear those cameras. Like, so the officer's seeing, but the camera, the man might have been paying attention to little things as he walks, but that camera's recording everything. So now you can go back and watch the film and say, what I didn't see that when I was there. I didn't see that. I didn't see that. It allows you to take another type of observation, you see. But that's what we're getting to here. See, that's the observation that I'm talking about when you're not in the room and something's going on. It's holding that for a verification, which is what we do when we observe. But the particle is really a string. It's not no single thing. That's why, like, anytime in physics, anything we've ever did in physics, has always been a observation. It's just one singular point of data. Now, we take all these multiple data points and compile them to get an answer into something. We need to have the view or the observation as existence does. Like I said, the light on constantly instead of flicking on and off. You're merely drawing off of a point of something that you only observed and glimpsed briefly, that continues on in a pattern or in a wave. You know, like I said, think of everything as trying to cool down. Water in a state or liquid state, as it cools, it goes to a solid state. Everything, if you was to turn all the energy off, everything in existence would find solid state and lock up and stop, and it ceased to have molecular energy or energy metabolism in a sense. It's how everything works. Will it come to an end? I say the expansion or the compression of light between the mirrors eventually does reach a number, an end. The expanse of energy would be opposed only by the lack, the opposite or negative energy, how much of it is. How much of does the other side of let's think about this. If you could get to the edge of the universe, now through math I figured this out. Think about looking through a window, okay? A lighted window, inside a lighted room, a window is hard to see outside of at nighttime. Why? Because of reflection coming off the mirror. You're trying to see through to the darkness, but you're really seeing just a reflection of what's in the room. Same thing at the edge of the universe. The reflection from the energy coming towards the edge of the universe will not allow us to view outside of the side of the existence. So we can never, I will say this, science will never be able to graft the dark energy, the dark matter outside. What's created inside the universe, dark matter is consists, but people got confused. There are two different types of matter. The dark matter inside the universe is conveyanced. It's created based off of reactions at quantum levels. It exists because of lack of data. What I was talking about, the zeros on the paper. Outside of existence is another type of energy or mass or matter that is eradicated by the opposing positive energy, the yin and the yang. Makes sense, don't it? Yin and yang, and inside a little of each. Balance. Push and a pull. I can prove this, okay? Think about the quarks. Okay, they got spin. Now, if something spins, what does it do? It moves. Up quarks, down quarks. They're spinning towards each other. So we got two dots here, and we got one here, and they're spinning, and they're trying to go like this. They basically create a balance. But as they spin like this, they also spin like this. Everything's about the spin. Look at the universe in frequency, and you can see that everything follows a pattern. Our DNA spins a certain way. The universe spins a certain way. The world spins a certain way. Hell, we're on top of the world. We spin a certain way. The atmosphere spins a certain way. Everything spins because of spin. Quantum. Now, think about these two pushing against each other. Because one's negative, one's positive in the quarks value of up and down. Then you have strange. You have other flavors of quarks. But these three are most important. Up, up, down, 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 up. Now, think about it. These are like triangles now. Because well, if you take two dots. Let me find my pen here. You could see this in your mind without a pen. If you take the two dots and here we go. Okay. Bear with me 1 second. I'm going to represent up with U and down with D. I'm going to draw this and I'm going to show their spin value. Half spin, half spin, one spin. Now, like I said, now these particles are quarks, up, up, down. Their spins are aligned based on their relativity. That's why they connect, because of the charges in the particles. There's, well, yeah, you know, the quasi-particles themselves. So this one's pushing this way, and these two are pushing this way. So these two, I propose one or two options, one or two actions within this. Either the particles keep a balance. Right here is a constant number between them, and then their spins cause the whole. Let's look at it now as a particle. Let's draw this. So as these particles have spin, by them pushing on each other and pulling, they cause another type of spin within the quartz pair itself, which is by now about to, it's either going to be a proton, a neutron, or so forth. That's what these come together to create. Now, think about that. That's a proton now, let's say. And as it's spinning, and that's based off whether the up and up down quarks or the down and down up quarks combining. And they're spinning to each other. There's the reaction to why nucleuses, atomic nucleuses, are made. Because the neutron, proton, see, they're reacting to each other. It's a polarity. Everything is polarity. It's based on polarity. You see? Now, that's the spin. Think about it, quantum spin. What's caused that? We'll go a little smaller here. Gluons. I'm going to represent gluons like this. We'll put R for red, G for green, Y for yellow, and O for orange. Why do they create colors? Think of a prism. What does a prism do? Amplification. The light comes through and spreads to a full spectrum because it stretches the vibration or the frequency. Now, just like I said, where's the energy being applied to this? In the particles themselves. Depending on how much energy the gluon is trying to command or compile, in a sense, depends the color it gives off. Same as like when we spectrographed atoms or molecules to get the color. Same thing with these. Same thing as the sun. How hot is it? Same thing. Now, based on those energy properties, they come together to make certain quarks. Let's say the red and the yellow have a number. Let's represent 12 for red, 36. We'll do 10 for green, and these are just conceptual values, but I want to get you an idea. Say these are the energy values of them. Okay? So, they're attracted by duality pair. 32, 32, 64 is what that means. 16 and 16 makes 32, 8 and 8 makes 16. Duality like this. So let's do this math problem here. Should I use oddality? 3, odd number. 6, even number. 9, odd number. Well, let's do another one. 2, 4, 8. Why was the 6 skipped when it is an even number? Because it's a bracket for duality. The 6. 6 and 6 is 12. 12 and 12 is 24. 48. So forth, so forth. Any number you compare from that, 6, is prime power. It is an assertion, a deficit number. So your gluons will all attain those types of numbers except for one oddality. That's the lesser energy particle that cannot adapt or pull energy because of the not bullying, but say overconsumption of energy by the higher energized or ionized gluon. When this happens, the negative or oddality gluon tries to find a match. It needs a host energy. So it finds the gluon with the highest energy around it, pairs with it. When this happens, the energy of the higher gluon will lose energy instantly to try to balance. So say these two numbers here, 36, and then you got the negative value 12. Use your graph there, in the negative to the positive values and the mean value, will try to become, so basically take 36 and negative 2 away from each other, take that number and split it in half. So say if you come up with a number like, well, let's actually do it. So negative 2 take away 6, 4 would be 5, so 35. Can't split it. It would have to have decimal value. It doesn't exist. It's not observable, and it's not constant. Now let's do it. Say if we come up with a number after we did that, and the number was 40. Then we can take that number, and we know that the gluons now are storing 20 and 20. They're balanced, and they will send each other fully out through a fluctuation. So one particle will send the number. We're just doing conceptual numbers here, so don't take this as real science here on that. The 20 and 1 will send it to others, so the 1 becomes 40 and 1 becomes 0, non-deficit. And then the particle of the gluons that are now quarks will send the data back so that the other one goes 40. So basically they're always in a state of either 40, 20, 20, or 40. Back and forth. And those balances create quantum. That energy fluctuation back and forth. Oscillation is not needed for generation or alteration. But we'll get on that later. Back and forth. Energy is needed for this. Correct? So there's a constant energy. That attraction between the bouncing, the vibration of these gluons transferring their energy back and forth to keep balance, creates the particle charge for the proton or the neutron or electron to bounce, to come together, hold together, make a push and a pull, create a virtual pair, and give gravitrons value when matter and energy is applied to the area or the gravitron. Good ideal, right? True science. Most conceptual science right now, or not conceptual science, we'll say physics. The physics we have now are still, maybe man is 10 to 20 years or maybe further from this. We need to, as mankind, you need to drop relative scale. To scale something relative is only observation based on the size and the mass of the observer. Basically, the Earth's big to us, but to the sun it ain't shit. Small. But the sun really is only relative if you think to the universe. To get a true constant number, what happened when like I said, everything meets a solid state? When the circle, remember, do the data structure. You got these bunch of pyramids rolling around each other, trying to make a square, but they make a ball instead because they're constantly moving. That solid state that all things are trying to come to. Like I said with water, the only thing keeping it in liquid form is energy. Take that away and dissipate and get to a lower state of energy, it goes to a solid state. That should tell you that even the smaller particles like quarks and gluons, they're trying to find solids. They're not solid state. They're not trying to find it. They're trying to find solid value. They percolate. Let's see. Project the energy. They control the energy. That's why science and physics get so messed up and can't get unification between relative and quantum, because quantum is relative scale is there to observe and apply data throughout the existence, but the quantum scale is merely there only to react omnibly, keep energy going, creates energy. This type of technology, you can literally create mechanisms that pull energy out of the air. Infinite. There's an infinite amount of energy. It's being stored in different sections and vectors and parts and things. But like I said, the Big Bang, all possible energy was already there. All the data was already there. It's just expanding. I have an ideal to use, I think, to harness gravity. Spooky action or quantum entanglement is the most important things right now, because if we harness gravity, we have the ability to travel. Traveling at the speed of light is not adequate. To go and come, years would pass. By the time you try to make supply missions, everybody there or you knew would be dead. you're gone. But you would still be, because in speed of light, you don't age because you're moving faster than data can be stored. Therefore, in the speed of light, your state takes on an infinite value, just like light, just like the energy reflection between the mirrors. The point I'm trying to get at is, like Einstein said, the quickest point to A to B is to bend the paper, harnessing gravity. My data on this is not fully complete. I cannot complete the equation because I get an imbalance in numbers between proprietizing the correct equation against the deficit values, meaning I can tell you how to control gravity. I just ain't got the exact numbers to know the fluctuations, how to separate the particle. We're going to use gold. Gold is the key. In a supernova, it's created when two supernovas go binary, get around each other, and explode and die. The gold, the mercury particles slam together to create gold through the ionization. That property is very important. I believe I can take the gold atom, use light, high energy light frequencies, to slowly put opposing force between the particle, so it slowly expands. The energy dissipates slowly, which during the process we could obtain the energy and use it and store it, like, kind of like the splitting of an atom in the atom bomb, except instead of throwing off the entropy instantly, we do it over a short period of time by causing vibrations between the atoms. Using vibration, you can pull the atom apart back to its other element, property, particle, atom. Take those two particles after you separate the gold, and you can, upon ionization, they will slam together no matter where they are in the universe, through data being received and transceived, sent and received by the virtual particles. And the gravitrons confirm data by holding a number for the matter and the energy at the time, and it's in that vector or that constant or that plane. We got an idealism here that they say inside a black hole nothing's existing, because down to the smallest point it's being compressed. Think about this. It's like holding to a sheet at the corners in a bowling ball. What if we let it go all the way into or almost touching at each corner, there's still area within inside the black hole, like in a tube. Think of a cone, and at the very small point it's infinitely small. And here's the size of the black hole's actual radius, or what you call event horizon. Inside the cone, on the walls, what's happening? That's still space. It's still there. It's being stretched. Space don't tear. It will replenish at a critical mass. That is what the black holes are trying to obtain: solid state critical mass. Once they reach, like I said, that negative value of number to absolute zero, they don't have nothing else to do but to release the energy somewhere. Blows out the other side. And that right there is how the universes are created. The parallel universe, you got to think of the universe in three different types of sets. You have universe, you have multiverse, then you have the convectionalverse, the whole bubble. It's like taking bubbles when we was kids, blowing them on a table, on a mirror, and you got bubbles inside, bubbles outside. That's the out layer, the film that controls what happens inside the multiverse. The multiverse isn't nothing but your loss of relative time. Once you get outside of the existence, the layer on top of the layer, you can't graph it because you can't physically see it, but it's just a continuance of the energy. And it mimics, like, for instance, everything that's happening will happen or could happen, all infinite possibilities, but not necessarily meaning that not only are they all happening, but multiple times. So that means that they're mimicking each other. Another problem I have in math is this implosion law. With every explosion is an implosion. What does that mean? That means that in high energy release, that as the energy expands, there becomes a point where another type of energy pulls it in on itself because of the spring action, in a sense, but in physics. makes me wonder of a collapse of the universe. Maybe at one point all energies convey they all match a certain number through all the multiverse. Everything comes to a certain number to where it correlates and says it's closed. Maybe then, instead of stuff falling off the table, will things fall onto the table? Is there universes already going through this, like a fluctuation of bubbles everywhere? Like I said, if we go small scale, and we know that these quartz particles or these gluons are sending these energies back and forth, keeping either, say, the values back to 40. So it's either in a state of 40 on this side, negative 40, 20, 20, or positive 40 on this side. It's the same thing that the multiverses are doing, like bubbles, fluctuating the energies back and forth constantly, kind of like two balloons together. This one's full of air, and let the center go, they become to a balance. But if there isn't a force added to the balloon that creates the imbalance, then balloons would fill up, come to a balanced state, and fill up again. I'm going to end the video on this. This will be just the part 2 of multiples to come, and we'll just keep calling them parts. I'm hoping to reach, certain people. Like I said, right now the most important thing is unification of the human being, the mindsets. Just keep that in mind in your conscience, and may the data that is already recorded by existence become available to you. Like I said, everybody is the infinite possibilities of intelligence, if only they will try to understand, perceive,